Like food scarcity is a major problem. Desertification, huge problem. Crop waste burning, a massive problem. So, and employment, lack of employment opportunities in the tropics, huge problem. We've not even mentioned the carbon removal part, and there's already 3-4 benefits that just investing in biochar as a solution that provides.
Welcome to Carbon Conversations, a podcast by Biochar Life, where we explore the cutting edge of environmental solutions, from biochar to smart agriculture to the ClimateTech revolution. We sit down with experts and business leaders at the forefront of change. This is your host, Matt Rickard. Hey, Freddie, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's cold in Lancashire, in the north of England at the moment, are you?
Yep. Yeah, northwest of England, just above Manchester, below Scotland.
Cool.
Home.
Yeah. Well, thanks for making time in mid-morning, kind of early evening here in Thailand. So, yeah, we're in the same space. We've, recently found out we're at the same event in London recently, but never even said hello. So we've probably spoken for just a few minutes before this. But, yeah, good opportunity to learn more about yourself and Planboo, which I know a fair bit about from the interactions online and the fact we are kind of in the same space and we overlap. But it's a good starting point. Just a bit of an intro, Planboo, what you guys do, what you're all about.
Sure. Yeah. So appreciate being on the podcast. So Planboo, as the name suggests, it has a ring to bamboo, and that's really where we started. My background was in sustainable construction, so I'd spent a few years building bamboo structures. I guess the most recognizable one was one in Sri Lanka. It's a giant bamboo hotel. And when we finished doing that, I was kind of like, oh, wow, bamboo's an amazing material. One, because it grows crazy quick. It can be made into beautiful things, like the hats I have behind me. These are some really nice handcrafted bamboo hats. And it's made of carbon. So at university, studying life cycle analysis, could see that if you're making a building out of concrete or steel, there's obviously a positive carbon footprint. There's a lot of emissions generated from building with steel. The moment you make something out of straw or bamboo, you're sequestering, you have a negative footprint. So really just got interested in using bamboo in more different ways, and then started thinking about carbon removal and carbon finance and carbon credits as a way to create a bit of a momentum or revenue into a startup, and then landed on biochar. And since then we've realized that you can make biochar not only from bamboo but from pretty much any living biomass, including myself. Actually, I realized I'm 20% carbon, so if I wanted to be if I wanted to be made into some biochar, I probably could.
Biochar funerals. There's another new startup. It's fine. I know you're not all about bamboo, but it's so fresh in my mind actually, because I just come back from a trek in the Thai jungle here, and for like 3-4 days. And honestly, it's. Have you been to Thailand? I know you're one of your.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's everywhere here, right? Bamboo. And on that trek, they use it for everything. I mean, it is so versatile. It's like we're eating out of bamboo. They're making like teapots out of bamboo, to boil the water. They're putting the rice in bamboo. It's freaking amazing. And it can be used. It's such a versatile product. It can be used for all sorts.
Fully really saw that versatility. Went to a place called Arunachal Pradesh, which is sort of like the most northeast state of India. Went there, I think it's 2000. I was actually there just as COVID kicked off, so early 2020. And they're like the Idu Mishmi tribe I was staying with. They like make bamboo. Like everything is made out of bamboo. They sleep on bamboo beds. They smoke bamboo pipes. They eat bamboo. You can eat it. It's an edible shoot. You can cook inside it. You can use it as a pot. The buildings, everything. So it's an amazing material.
It is. Have you been to the Green School in Bali as well?
No, Bali's one of those places that I just can't wait to go as a bamboo destination. Yeah,
I mean that I'm assuming it's still iconic, but it was a while ago. I think I went there like 10 years ago nearly. But actually, I think even the second person I had on this podcast was a young lad at school still, like 17, 18, entrepreneur who'd started a blockchain business tracking little carbon removal projects, and he went to the green school, which is fully, if I remember rightly, it's almost fully made out of bamboo. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and then they've rolled it out to different parts of the world as well now.
Okay.
There's one in New Zealand, like a green school in New Zealand, and then I think they're building one in Brazil too. So yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, amazing like concept and foundation that's been created to then help education and support people to think in a green way. So yeah, it's
cool. Well, talk us through your process a bit then. So whereas we are working with smallholder farmers in a distributed manner, as I understand you guys, it's more of an industrial process, and we'll talk about though you're still very community based, but you're working with particular types of kilns, right? I watched a video again with bamboo, but it was in Thailand, and I could see in the background the kilns. But I think for the audience, talk us through the process, whether it's bamboo or any other feedstock, of what happens in the Planboo process and who you're working with.
Sure. So it's really been, I guess, refined over several iterations of projects, and really originated from Hans-Peter Schmidt's Kon-Tiki kiln, which I think was like 2014, 2015, when he sort of shared that those details and those videos, and that's where we started. Like, what's a low cost kiln that we can manufacture and start producing biochar in a relatively low tech way? Like, it's manual. You load the biochar in, you load the biomass in, and then you cook it into biochar. And we've sort of used that quite extensively across several projects, different biomass types, from cacao, cotton stalks, bamboo, cinnamon sticks, and that's been quite a good. It's been a great like sort of entry point, I think, for a lot of biochar project developers to start with that relatively low cost equipment. But how our process has, I guess, been refined. We've started by we've been getting quite a lot of reach outs from new project developers or people that are interested, farmers that are interested in using biochar and generating carbon credits. So we start with a feasibility study, or now a feasibility accelerator program, where we design as a group the project and the different ingredients. It's like baking a cake. You need the ingredients, and we've been learning the recipe and refining the recipe. So we pull together the financial model, life cycle analysis, the project report, the risks associated to this, to their project. And then we move that into a training phase, where one of Planboo's executives or team members goes out to the project, and over the course of a week helps develop the right on the ground practices for making biochar. A lot of them have already made biochar for a few cooks or a few weeks, but really dialing in that how to operate the kiln effectively. And then we introduce them to our MRV, which is a combination of IoT, so like a hardware component, and then the software, which is in the mobile phone. And this technology is what we use to, I guess, independently track the data that needs to be generated or needs to be gathered to generate a high quality carbon credit. And that data is then cross verified against the design of the project, so the feasibility. So what was the cost of biomass? What was the ingredients? Where did the biomass come from? Where's the biochar being sent to or applied? So it's just a cross verification using different tools, technology tools, to generate high quality carbon removal credits.
Cool. And let me correct myself as well. Sorry, I was saying industrial, which is wrong. I don't know. It's just it's been a long day. But you're working within, anyone who's listening who understands the standards. You're working within the artisan standard, and working to artisan pro, which is the kind of Kon-Tiki style kilns, right? Which is what you're still doing now.
Yeah, that's been the bulk of our projects. Although we started a project last year in Namibia with an industrial
cool.
User. And that's under the Pure Earth standard. We've seen that there's so much you can learn between the standards and also between the project types, the biomass types, the application plans, that they're actually creating technology or learning quite agnostically, not being attached to one type of biomass or one type of project or one type of standard, allows us to, I guess, internalize and then optimize the projects that we work with, because you learn from one and you can then share that information and knowledge with another. So creating a bit of network effect of learning between the projects, and that's helping like reduce the operating costs and increase the quality of the biochar or the carbon credits.
And are you finding that the decision making around that, whether it is, more of the kind of low cost, low tech equipment or looking towards kind of industrial, is that driven by the community you're working in? Is it driven by the type of feedstock you're working with? Is it a bit of both? What are the kind of influencing decisions that, kind of go with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we work with partners. So partners, operating partners on the ground. So a project developer from Namibia or Ghana connects with us and says, hey, I would like to operate a biochar project. And that decision is quite often dictated by that project developer. Like, do they have the finance to install a $300,000 industrial kiln? Or actually, do they have tens of thousands of dollars to kickstart a lower tech, Contiki type, distributed artisanal biochar project? But in turn, we would like to see that more of those lower tech in Contiki type projects, if they have a track record of proving that biochar can be produced and applied, and there's a real I guess like an operating project is working, there's a track record, then we'd like to see that the more industrial type kilns can be introduced into those projects to help scale up their operations and potentially, hopefully one day, generate heat or electricity that can be used inside that local community.
Yeah, that's some of the big advantages, right? When you go to kind of higher tech equipment, it's just the added services that can be linked on there versus something very simple. So,
and hopefully in time that will happen, but it does require quite a significant upfront investment, and also the relationship and the trust from investors and from carbon buyers and from the project, that they trust that this ecosystem and this relies on several parties and partners to make an effective biochar project, that everyone is working in a win-win manner. Everyone's benefiting from this solution, and then you can scale it up and grow it. But I think starting where we have done with low-tech kilns has given us a great minimum sort of viable project, minimum barrier to entry for lots of different types of projects, biomasses in different geographies. So
I think same for ourselves. I think certainly what we're seeing, obviously we were in Thailand quite a long time ago, but more recently and much more prevalently now in East Africa. And I think the ability to kind of be distributed with that low cost, low tech, and the ability to have an impact with far more people is a big advantage. You touched on buyers there. I mean, interesting to ask your opinion. We're seeing huge amounts of investment this year, particularly in direct air capture, and actually just today, I mean, I think great to see this biochar announcement by Carbon Future and Microsoft in South America, which is, I can't remember the exact number, 32,000 something. So it's I think this is the big advantage of biochar. It's a big amount in a small amount of time. The direct air capture stuff is huge numbers, but it's futures and tech build. What do you have a view on where the appetite's coming from? Why are those big investments being made? Why is everyone not just buying our biochar right now? I mean, we're growing, both of us are organizations, but I haven't asked you this, certainly, though I know we would love to see the appetites that we're seeing in direct air capture, from a financial perspective, going into more artisan biochar. What do you have a view on what some of the decision criteria is and why people are putting the money there?
Yeah, it's a funny one. It's a good question. I guess big investments and things, it's all about measuring risk, and it feels almost like now to say risk, surely there's a massive risk in this unknown technology that's never proven before. But because there's so many consultants and lawyers and accountants and engineers, and it's European quite often, apart from, is it Octavia in Kenya? That's one of the recent ones. DAC producer. It's hard to say. I guess the idea of having a machine that sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere, and it's patented, protected, and it's one machine around behind a fence that's, we're the ones that can solve climate change. I guess there's a big, investors probably like the idea of owning a share of this massive machine, and and I don't want to I think what's happened, it's really easy just in general to polarize one versus another. And that's just happening, not just in carbon or carbon removal, but carbon avoidance, carbon reduction, politics, like COP, everything is polarizing. So I don't want to be pulling DAC against biochar, but I think, it's around risk. It's around the concept of an amazing machine. There's no one's ever done before. It's this crazy invention. Can we do it? But it is a real shame when you look at the cost per ton, the lack of co-benefits. Biochar has biochar is just a great thing, whether you remove carbon or not. Like the improvement in soil, like food scarcity is a major problem. Desertification, huge problem. Crop waste burning, a massive problem. So, and employment, lack of employment opportunities in the tropics, huge problem. We've not even mentioned the carbon removal part, and there's already 3-4 benefits that just investing in biochar as a solution provides. So it's a shame that the price per ton and the investments that's going into biochar is a lot fewer than what you get with DAC. I think it will change, and I think that in time there's a necessity for it to change. We need to start moving quickly into any solution that can remove carbon. And given that biochar's that ready, sort of shovel ready, to quote IBI, that shovel ready solution, it's about time that it will. I think it will happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, again, coincidental that we're talking today after that announcement. I do think, to your point, I mean, before the removal credits market, we were making biochar for 10 years, teaching farmers because of all those other reasons you mentioned, right? So all that's happened is it's given us the opportunity to scale this to far more people who would never have made biochar and never been part of this kind of program. So those co-benefits are so important. And that probably by definition does change the nature of the type of bio you're dealing with. It's a different market. The outcome from a carbon removal point, there's room for everyone in one way or another. Direct air capture, biochar, it's just probably going to take a bit of time, and maybe this kind of blended model of lots of different technologies is what we're going to see as we grow. So
lots of shots on target, people say, is a phrase that people want to follow. But it's you just think the amount of money that's been spent on DAC, if that had gone into biochar, how much would have already removed?
Exactly.
It's such a minimum barrier to entry with removing carbon with biochar. It's just it's one of those things.
Well, maybe a good segue, because I think one of the challenges is I've come from a technology background before this, and I've never sold direct air capture, but I could imagine the sales process, and it's more expensive, but it's simpler in a certain way to communicate to a customer or a prospect the value proposition. With what we do, there are many moving parts, and that is why there are many other benefits. But MRV, measurement, reporting, and verification. Always have to say it because using acronyms.
Yeah, people say measure, people say monitor.
Okay. Just the acronyms. Honestly, I've been picked up on it on a few times where I'm talking and someone's like, "What's MRV?" And I just assume everyone knows. So go on, just for the sake of the audience, just talk us through MRV and DMRV.
I'm going to chuck another acronym out there, but So D, digital MRV, measuring, reporting, and verification. So this is the measurement or the monitoring. I prefer measurement because you have to measure what you're doing. You're making something that's an invisible gas, and you're turning it into a visible thing, and that's the carbon removal. The measuring, the reporting, and then the verification. So taking the measurement or the data that's been recorded, reporting it to a registry, a standard, a scientific body to sort of stick a stamp on that to say that is correct. And then the verification is then the third party auditor going and checking that what you've reported is correct. Cool. And then we chuck a couple more acronyms on the end. Just we like the idea of Mervin, so intelligence. So now using artificial intelligence, not just to report and verify and measure one project, but actually by measuring multiple projects, you can start identifying using AI what is well reported, what is inside the bounds of an average project, or what is an anomaly. So the intelligence is about measuring and comparing lots of different projects and data points together, and then working within a network to help improve and optimize all the projects within inside that network, because there isn't the perfect project right now. I don't believe. I think there's lots of different approaches and techniques, and the more cooks that you do, the more bulk density measurements you take, the more recordings that you do, we'll start to learn from a network of what is the perfect project, just by like that mass sort of knowledge base working together. So that's Mervyn is what we're working towards, or that's what we've sort of labeled our product.
Cool. I mean, sensible. I like your description. Thank you as well from a communicating to the audience point of view. But the end part there, when you talked about networks, I think it's important because often MRV is just constantly applied to, hey, it's a piece of software. You know, sometimes people don't forget that there's way more to MRV. There's way more components. The question I was actually going to ask, I was interested in your journey as an organization. You know, what was the point where you decided, and why, that you've gone, hey, we're going to develop our own? Because you don't necessarily need to. You probably could have approached this in a number of different ways. So what was that point, and you know, what is the kind of future of that? Is that the kind of backbone of the business, and in terms of where you see yourselves going?
Yeah, good question. So we sort of had to develop our own. Like when we started with the artisan methodology hadn't been released at that point. I think yourself and Biochar Life and Hans-Peter Schmidt, they drafted or Biochar Life had drafted a version of a methodology. The EBC was doing like the European C-Sync, which was more industrial in Europe, and we were working in Sri Lanka with an agricultural company. And we originated, we were just like, okay, well, we'll apply for the EBC, we'll write our methodology of how we're doing this. Like, we could see that what they had for the European standard, but then we just started writing, well, how is this going to work scientifically from our own project? And then we sent it into Hans-Peter and Julia at CSI. And it was sort of like a moment of like, this isn't actually under a methodology. It's not under the EBC methodology, which is what we were originally hoping for. So then there was like this, I guess, like collection of discussions between Biochar Life, and a version went round of the guidelines between Hans-Peter, Biochar Life and Planboo, to then pull together what could become a methodology. And that was the introduction of the MRV and the tracking and the smartphone piece. Because we are a European company, we're based in Sweden, we were not going to be on site every day making and tracking the biochar ourselves. So, but the project was using its own biomass, cinnamon sticks, cooking it in a Conti kiln, and then applying that biochar to its own landscape. And the intention was to pay them carbon removal credits for that process that they were managing completely internally. It wasn't reliant on a third-party stakeholder buying biochar or us standing there and observing it. So we're like, okay, how can we make this so that it would be very high incentive of them to cheat that? If we're paying them based on them saying, yes, we've done X number of tons of biochar, please pay us, then it was important for us to have an independent tool that wasn't reliant on ourselves inputting data or them inputting data. And that's where the use of IoT became like a critical component of our MRV piece, so that we could just actually walk away from the project and let it generate carbon removal credits without us having to stand and observe every cook. So we obviously spoke to different MRV providers at that point, Carbon Future being the key one. But as their focus had solely been on European biochar production, at that point we thought, okay, well, we need to develop something here that we can use, and that's where the IoT and the use of the development of our app came to fruition. And then since then, it's just been, wow, isn't there so much more that we could add to this? Like the sort of sky's the limit with when do you stop recording data? There's endless data sets that you can record, from not just looking at the carbon, but the costs, the co-benefits. There's so many different data points that you can use to cross-verify each element. And the introduction of satellite technology. There's no shortage of tech. It's just how to get that proof point and the communication over to the buyer of the carbon credits that we've recorded the right information for you to understand and for the standard to understand. That there's a very, very high probability that this carbon removal has taken place through the production and application of biochar.
What are some of the without knowing a huge amount about your your tech solution? What are some of the barriers to entry on the side of the data collection? Do you have your own teams on the ground? Do you work directly with communities? Is that challenging? Because I know that certainly we've seen, that's one of that's one of the opportunities, I would say, more than challenges, is as technology gets more distributed and prevalent in some of these areas that we're working in, the more we can have access directly with individuals that are creating biochar. But yeah, how are you seeing that? What are some of the challenges and opportunities with it today?
Yeah, I think so my co-founder Priya, she was working in the NGO sector for 7 years, like prior to working with Planboo, and so she'd been a lot on the ground, like digital banking and financing. I think that is a big piece that people or projects and organizations have been working on for quite a long time, how to ensure that people are digitally banking and they're not paying cash, and women have bank accounts, because quite often it's only the man in the family that has the bank account. So that's been one of the challenges, is actually digital literacy and digital ownership of payments and banking. And then the cost of sending money to remote regions of the world, it's ridiculous, like how expensive it is to send money to Malawi when you can send money in Europe for nothing. It's almost as if the system is slightly rigged in a way that, let's keep money in Europe, because if we send it over to outside of Europe, then it's not in Europe, and that's why it's almost made really expensive. So the banking is a challenge. The connectivity, so being online or having an offline version of an MRV is super critical, because not everywhere has access to mobile networks. Those are they're two major ones that really stand out. And then just mobile phones. I experienced this in my previous job when I was working in Sri Lanka. It was we're building a hotel with sort of 200 local workers, fishermen. It was the first time a lot of these young lads had got mobile phones and got the internet, access to the internet for the first time. And that impact on society, or that very localized impact of people going on the internet for the first time in their 30s or 40s, the internet is full of all sorts of nonsense, as well as political stuff, but alternative ways of thinking, doing, acting. I don't need to go any further, but people get the understanding that when you give someone access, or you provide access to the internet, it doesn't only benefit, it also has negative impacts on a community. So I think that's something that's really important, and the way that you manage that is, I don't think phone companies or Facebook is necessarily interested in supporting the education of technology use. No offense to
all. No, to your point of the payment, I mean, that payment challenge of the fees, it's something that, unless you're doing this type of work, or unless you're kind of doing work where you're trying to facilitate that process, particularly into places like Malawi and stuff, you just you don't know. And I mean, my previous before Biochar Life, I was involved with a blockchain business related to Stella, which they're constantly trying to solve this issue of the unbanked, essentially, of which there are just so many. And trying to get money in and out of countries is horrendously expensive and ridiculous. So,
and that's before we talk about carbon ownership, compliance markets, NDCs. This is just about sending payments to parts of the world that previously were unbanked. So there's a whole future of just the complexity that will come through the carbon markets and paying to different projects and regions that is. I guess it has to be solved on a macro level, but actually just the micro level of how to do it, that's where I think, we're trying to work, is solve the nuance and the details of how to do it in a voluntary carbon market sense and make it work financially, contractually, technology-wise, because eventually the compliance, governments, COP, whoever will make the decisions on Article 6 and how then that is accounted. And I think there's a long way to go, but I think it's just about getting up and doing it and trying and starting. And I think that's really our attitude, just to keep running through doors. There's lots of challenges that we come into, and I'm sure you're the same in Biochar Life. And it's kind of exciting that we've hit a new barrier, because it's a problem to solve. And then you go through the door, and it's that almost is very that you realize how much you're progressing by the number of problems that you're walking into. The number that there's no blueprint on how to do this. or there's very few blueprints on how to do this. So it's about creating your own blueprint by like overcoming challenges and building past barriers.
Yeah, I think this is just the result of what is now an extremely exciting, fast growing space that has all sorts of uncertainty, and as things do when they're growing like this. So for me, I agree with everything you just said. I think, and maybe this is because I'm very client focused on what I'm often doing, which is trying to translate all of this into a make sense, easy story for the buyer. Because if you imagine we're in it every day, and everything you just explained there, it's like all this stuff. And then you're a buyer there that has a million other things going on and needs to understand this space. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for all of us, is just trying to filter that out. So you're giving out the most important information for people to make the decisions on where they put their investment, right?
Fully. Yeah. I feel sorry for for like buyers trying to make sense of all these standards, labels, partners, projects, roles, responsibilities, acronyms. Like, in it's ever evolving, like it's always changing, or it's always growing and developing. So yeah, there's a real have we hit like peak complexity yet? I don't know. We have to sooner or later either simplify it as much as possible, but so that people understand it. But actually, you still need all the rigor and the science and all the acronyms. But you need to get people to understand it at the first step.
I'm hopeful that I think we are getting to. I don't know if you were at COP. I wasn't, but just reading the fallout around Article 6, I kind of feel like we're getting to this kind of headway point where things are going to resolve, because it has to, just because of the necessity of what needs to happen. It's kind of at that point now, right? So,
I wasn't at COP. Spoken to a couple of people that have attended, and I went to New York Climate Week, and that was my first time like an international event, and you go to started off at the sort of the CDR events at the start of the week, and then went to some of the other events, and you realize how much of a niche we're sitting in, and then to try and then there's people inside that industry or inside that carbon market industry to all, I guess, comprehend and understand the value of each component, because it's not one or the other. Like, we need a whole spectrum of things we shouldn't be pitting one versus another. So and then there's a lot of experts, quote unquote, about what's their opinion, and then people, it's overwhelming for a lot of things. But I think that what you said about communicating, making it simple and easy for people to get behind, it shouldn't be within a niche and you have to be a scientist to understand carbon removal. Actually, I think I did it in less than third year of high school. It's basic science, the carbon cycle. In fact, you do it at primary school. Trees fall and leaves and fires, and so it's basic science, but it's become complex by all the nuance and acronyms that get thrown around it. So I think it's about bringing it back out and just making this invisible gas visible to the masses of people, just to make this very real and tangible so that people get into it.
Cool. Yeah. Good. Maybe kind of entry pointers, but as we close off, what are some of your thoughts for the future around this space? I mean, you might have touched on some of it there, but just give us your kind of, I can give us your kind of 5-10 year view and of where this is all going and how you see this space and where we're going to end up.
I think at the moment, a lady said it really well, a few months ago. She was like, people are buying carbon credits for sort of 3 reasons. Because other people are buying them. So businesses are going, okay, well, they're buying, Microsoft buying them, therefore we need to buy them. Because they have to buy them because they've made promises, or because they see an opportunity. It's a good marketing thing to do, is to buy carbon credits. And all those 3 motivations is what will make this industry move forward, because it's either compliance, other people are doing it, or there's an opportunity by doing it. So I think that all 3 of those things will be moved forward in their own way at different times by different organizations. And it's just making sure that everybody has got their every organization and eventually individuals have their own motivations for doing this. If my mates start doing it, I would probably start doing it. And it's likewise for if my business peers start doing it, then I'll start doing it. Or if I see an opportunity as an individual to brand my Instagram as I'm a great eco warrior, I'm climate friendly, then that's going to probably get more likes and more notifications and more followers. And then that's going to lead to more people doing it. So I think there's just this constant, I think there needs to be this like everyone's working towards the same thing, and there's just people are motivated by different reasons, and I think that's going to keep happening. The more activism in turn relates to action. So I think we need more activism to highlight some of the needs, but at the same time we don't want really polarizing of opinions, like right versus left, black versus white, like all these things is what can happen with technology of today and social media. So I think that we can, as long as people are willing to think differently and communicate from different perspectives and come together around solving this global problem, then we're in a good shape. But I'm an optimist, but I'm also pragmatic, and people are going further and further away. It feels technology is accelerating the differences between people rather than bringing together, but this is carbon removal, and MRV is a great time to bring people closer together. It's a reason to bring people together, and technology can be used positively. So.
Cool. Indeed. Good closing words. If look, I appreciate joining. Before we close off completely, if people want to learn more about Planboo, yourself, the work you do, where can they find you online? Where should they look?
I think LinkedIn's a pretty good place. And then planboo.eco is our website. Reach out on LinkedIn. It's really where we're most vocal.
Cool. Well, for anyone listening or watching, I'll include those links in the speaker notes. And it's been good to meet. It's been, with the fact that we were in London in the same room at a networking event, didn't know. It's a bit of a shame we didn't get to say hello in person, but I'm sure we will at some time in the near future. So appreciate you joining the podcast, and all the best.
Cheers, Matt. Good to see you.
Cheers.